So I'm Heather Leeson, I'm data literacy lead at IFRC. Together with hundreds of people around the world, we created the data playbook, which we're going to go to version 1 soon, which I'm excited about. But we convened this with our partners at UNOCHA, Center for Humanitarian Data, and also Fab Writers, because people kept contacting us, asking us to share best practices. And we thought, why not just do that with everybody together whenever we could? So we're doing 4 calls this year. This is our 2nd call. We'll have another one in the fall, which we'll tell you about that topic about later. But anyway, so we'll do 4 calls this year. Last year we did 6. And Caitlin, tell us.
And yeah, hi, I'm Caitlin Rogers. Sorry I can't go into video. I'm having all the Zoom trouble. I hope you can hear me. Heather seems to be nodding, so that means my audio might be working finally. But I am the data literacy co-lead at the Center for Humanitarian Data, which is part of UNOCHA. And really excited for this conversation. We have been doing a lot of face-to-face trainings, as I think we're a big part of many data literacy strategies, and that is clearly not possible at the moment. So we've been trying to pivot, and really excited to learn from others on how they are pivoting, or how they were already working online and we can learn from them.
Fabulous. Fabulous. So one thing, so we're about to throw you into small groups. We want you to consider this question in your small groups, which is how has COVID-19 influenced your data literacy work? We have left this a little open-ended. We want you to be very much speaking from your own context and sharing in that way. That's the way that it happens best. I just have 3 guidelines for you for moving forward that I want to cover before we put you into the small groups. 3 things: just be respectful, be inclusive, and be fully present. Be respectful. I think one of the things that's really critical for us here, this is a somewhat diverse group. You are all coming from various disciplines and sectors. It is really critical that you listen to each other. Do not rush to solve each other's problems, but maybe offer respect by showing solidarity. And then the other thing in that is, very much important for you to be inclusive. So speak to the nth. We're going to get you into small groups of like 3 or 4. So speak a 4th of the time, speak a 1/3 of the time in that small group. The other thing though is to be fully present during this. You're in front of a computer. There's lots of different things that are demanding your attention. So we invite you to turn those off if you do not need to look at them. If you do need to look at them, if there's other things that are there, totally that's fine. Do not worry. But if you can, close things down so you are fully present in this. The other thing, as I mentioned, the diversity, right? So if people are using terminologies or things that you do not understand, please ask questions. So stay fully present by asking questions. Do not get lost because somebody has used some language that you do not understand. So shall I move on to just the agenda before we get into small groups? So you all know what's going to be going on. We're going to throw you into small groups, like I said. You are going to answer this question about how COVID-19 has influenced your data literacy work. We're going to give you probably about 15 minutes to talk that through. We want you to take notes during this. These notes become extra critical for future blog posts and things like that people might be generating off of these. Then we'll come back, have a large group discussion, do some reflection on what the groups have generated. So this is also important for why you need to take notes so that everybody can read the notes after we are done. And then we're going to just talk about some helpful resources that people might have been generated or have found over the last couple of months that others might be useful. And then we'll talk about what's happening next. And that's my agenda. I will pause briefly just to see if anyone has any questions before we move forward. Fantastic. So what I'd love to invite you to do now is read the notes. Take a look at what the other groups have generated. And then after I've given you a couple of minutes to read the notes, I just would love to get a large group discussion going where we talk about what people have taken away both from the discussion and also from reading the notes.
Contract tracing. Hi, friends. I have not had enough caffeine for this. Just going to be super, no, truly.
Heather, I will offer you some of my cold brew here.
No, I could use some New York Times, some cold brew, and a hangout with a Civic Tech ally. Maybe not in that order. I should be nicer.
My morning regime is to drink a liter of cold brew.
Well, I usually have afternoon coffee, but today was one of those days.
Wait, a liter.
I know, I was trying to move on. As co-host, I was trying to move on. Didn't happen. That's fine. Let's talk about
Sorry, I did it.
No, it's fun. Let's all talk about Noel. Noel, what other data points would you like to share with us today? You told us a leader. Is there any other data points we should know carefully? Publicly recording.
Yeah, I almost got ran over by an SUV while I was trying to put up a barricade to protect our local play street. We have a local play street that apparently neighborhood drivers don't like, so they like to just run at the barrier at full throttle because it's made out of wood.
Oh my God!
Yeah, if you go to my Twitter account, you'll see me documenting. I will.
I follow your Twitters. So yes,
that's my other data point.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of attention, and we were talking about this in-house in the Red Cross, Red Crescent. You know, there's a whole data team which Eva's part of and Tron's part of, and they are super saturated with information and they're super tired. And I think all of us are seeing tensions in our communities and in things that are wrong a little bit differently. And I'm very sorry for that, Noel. I think that at the heart, you know, communities need to take care of each other. So whether it's with information or barriers or ways to protect things that we love and care about, you know, have at it. I personally would like to make sure that people don't get targeted with their data. That's my biggest priority right now. So I think I mentioned that 4 times on the call. No backstory. Yes, Dirk.
Just apologies for our continued banter, Rebecca. We are going to be moving into a large group discussion. I did want you to read the notes. Unfortunately, we've been talking at you while you've been reading the notes, and I might not have digested it as well. So apologies for that. But please, yeah, sorry. Let us just take a minute of silence and let you read the thing, and then we'll move on to the large group discussion. So folks, let me rudely move you on. The large group discussion. So, you know, what you've both experienced within your small group discussion, and then reading the notes that are here. We'd just love to get some reflections in terms of takeaways about the influence of COVID-19 on your data literacy work. I have started a list here of stuff that is now at the top of page 7. So if anyone wants to help me out by taking notes, that would be greatly appreciated. But I would welcome anyone to come off mute and share what takeaway or learning at this point. Thank you, Rebecca.
Hi, Dirk. I can go quickly, as I think it was an interesting discussion in group 3. It was Ava, Caitlin, and I, and one of the things we talked about repeatedly through the group was that having COVID-19 is kind of like a unifying event that everybody has been participating in, and it provides this unifying way to introduce data literacy because everybody should be able to find themselves in it, including people who maybe never thought about it before, and actually introducing them to the complexity of data literacy and just seeing the number on the page of what actually goes into that has been challenging. So both the opportunity that COVID-19 presents in that it's a unifying thing, but also the challenge of explaining that complexity and getting into really practical things for folks as they manage 10,000 other things during the pandemic.
Great. Thank you. Others?
I have one thing to add, Eric, as you were sharing what we discussed, occurred to me is that because it's unifying and because everyone's dealing with the same types of data, you can also see clearly how different organizations and your counterparts are dealing with it. And so what I've seen in my work with other Red Cross, Red Crescents is that they've seen how other organizations have created dashboards or created reports on the same type of information that their own organization wants. So that's been a clear incentive to, for some, catch up, and for others, really kind of move ahead and getting more involved in more advanced analysis that they're seeing other parts of the world doing.
Great, thank you.
Ava.
Go ahead.
One thing I've learned is a lot of people were quite stranded, or they couldn't know how to handle things. So just resources or guidance on how to handle things that they normally do is quite important. And also most organizations are doing quite the same thing. So having an aggregation or a website or something that accumulates or shows all the information that each and every organization is doing is quite important, because sometimes you might, instead of reusing, instead of creating something new, you can always reuse what other organizations are doing. So it's been important for us to just provide guidance to our partners on how to adapt their current activities, the ongoing activities to the context.
Great. Thank you for that, Sylvia. Others?
Sorry, somebody just joined at the end of the meeting with the name Dora Explorer. Are you here for the Data Literacy Consortium call? I appreciate the science project of children's literature as a name, but we do try to identify ourselves as who we are. Thank you. It's okay, now I know who it is. I got a message. Thank you, go ahead.
Other takeaways?
I think in group 2, we found there's opportunities and challenges. So some of the good things is, so Emily's been, was able to sort of opportunities in doing training by Zoom, and so expanding an audience, being able to deliver courses to more people and her remit. But I think it's also certainly for me, it's been the gaps that come up. So there's certainly been an emphasis on capturing more data and and using the data, but there's still those gaps in the people who are capturing the data and why they need to capture it, and then how other people are going to be using that data and the decisions that they make based on the information that's being captured. So I think it's kind of emphasizes the need for that data literacy and sort of plugging those gaps.
I like to call that the data buffet problem too, Anna, that, you know, no, truly, that it belongs to them, and that it's about power and making sure that we have shared and that we're respectful and give feedback loops. And so, yes, we need data for decision making. Yes, we need to plan, but also super respectful. Thanks for the reflection.
Welcome.
One interesting thread that came out in group 4 between a number of us is the perception that because, you know, so many of us have been mobile or not mobile, but virtual, that we have the tools and the resources to do online capacity building. The problem is that the literacy level of the people that we're trying to reach is still not equal. And so while we may be connected to the internet and may have kind of like the capacity to do these tools, not everyone still has the same literacy level of trying to help people out. So a lot more TLC and hand-holding.
Yes, a lot more. And we have needed that as a number of different levels. What else have people taken away from this discussion?
I wasn't in a discussion, but this is a thought that COVID-19 has really accelerated like digital and data kind of transformation in a lot of places, but that the places that didn't have it to begin with or didn't have anything ongoing kind of got left behind. So there's like positives and negatives.
We are certainly finding data gaps as a large organization, you know, being able to understand what's happening situationally globally, because it is a global local emergency as a humanitarian. And I think it also shows an opportunity because there's some amazing people out there that are doing new things about data literacy, including our comms officers, and really explaining what the graphs are and the charts are and what does it mean. And I think that in itself, and watching people do TikTok videos with that, which has been crazy. I never would have thought that we needed to kind of really shift that, but we're getting schooled on how do we impart information. And so I'm joyfully thinking about in the future, based on this, how can we do this next? Yeah.
To point out that, I mean, this has been an incredibly rich time for learning, I think. And I think the thing, like with Sylvia's point about, you know, having multiple resources together and have aids quickly, and being able to talk to each other about like what works and what doesn't, has been super critical. Everybody, it's not just learning about like how do you process the COVID-19 data, or what is this COVID-19 data actually telling us, but having to do new ways of working because of the pandemic. So honoring the fact that people are on learning journeys on all sorts of different ways, shapes, and forms, being able to have resources that actually speak to them, and being able to connect with other people that are facing similar journeys, right, or in similar places in terms of their journeys. So honoring that, like honoring all the different journeys that people are on, has just been so incredibly important, which is actually one of the reasons that we had set up the Data Literacy Consortium to begin with, is we really wanted to have a place where people could compare and share of what they're doing. Before we start to wrap up, I do want to just give folks an opportunity to put in resources. There's already been a really nice list started. So if you look, I started the prompt, it is now at the bottom of page 7, but if you move down, you'll see some of the resources that are being shared. I'm gonna ask you guys to come off mute and talk about some of these resources. But before I do that, Richard, you are developing a resource and you wanna get some inputs from it, I understand.
No, the resource in question is a podcast that I have. There's about 31 episodes that have been published. It's called Stories from the Open Gov. And right now I'm just putting a call out to anyone here. If they have a story on open government and open data that they'd like to share on the podcast, to reach out to me offline, obviously, and we can set up a date and do a recording.
Fantastic. So please reach out to Richard. Richard, also just to give you a prompt to maybe, because we do have quite a big network of people. I think we're like close to 200 people are now on the share at dataconsortium.net list. So, and just invite you to use that to invite people to contact you for the story. So please do that. So we got some list of resources here that have gotten going. Just want to invite people that have added resources to maybe share the resource and why they find it valuable. I know who to call on that first one there, so I'm going to do it. Noel, do you want to tell us a little bit about your beta.nyc classes and why they're valuable?
So Emily, who's also on the call, and I have been working on these issues for the last few years. We scaffolded a couple of different classes, and I was just detailing the 5 different classes. So we have what's most pertinent here is that we developed a class kind of like in the time of COVID. So it is our 102, which is unlocking open data, BoardStat, and data journeys. So many years ago at MozFest, we introduced a series of kind of like playing cards and kind of a human computing function where we move people around. Essentially, that's a very kind of like low level intro to open data and terminology. In our 102 class, we teach the city's open data tools. And so these are a number of web products that use open data, as well as ending up teaching the city's open data portal. As part of that class, we had to figure out how to convert our human computing function, which teaches the 5 key terms in data manipulation: filter, group, sort, count, and pivot table. And so Emily and I came up with some kind of like little cards that you could make at home. And essentially you can move them around the desktop to teach the core mentality of those 5 terms. And then we've iterated, we did one virtual class, and then we're going to be doing another virtual class for New York City Council. And then we're going to keep on running these as part of kind of our ongoing training series. So if you're looking for tools, resources on trying to do this like how to teach open data virtually, our classes are something that we've been hacking around. And then the classes then kind of like step people through the literacy process. So once you've kind of learned the key terms, once you kind of understand the perspective, then we can go into deeper analysis of spreadsheets, and then also GIS tools and census data. And then ultimately it culminates in a 201, which is about teaching people how to teach the same class that we've put together. And we've pioneered that with the Queen's Library and the city's open data program. So we're trying to figure out like how to be full circle. Here's the curriculum if you're wanting to learn, and then here's the curriculum on how to teach the materials that we've already put together.
Great. So do check that out. Caitlin, did you want to share a little bit about what CHD has been putting out, like the data viz stuff and things like that?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, after when I had mentioned this in our breakout group, but when COVID-19 happened, we had a bunch of trainings, in-person trainings planned, and we realized not only were the in-person trainings not going to happen, but people really didn't have the bandwidth. So COVID-19 was kind of added to the workload of many humanitarians, and they really didn't have the time, but now they're also using this new types of data that they might not necessarily understand or know how to interrogate and engage with. So we're producing these kind of like quick tips on And so the first one was quick tips on visualizing data. I can drop it into the document. And it's essentially like, it's basically a set of slides that you can go through with some best practices, how to choose the right chart for your data. And then at the end, there's a series of videos to show people how to like structure their data to make a logarithmic line graph. So trying to mix and a step-by-step guide and how to do that as well. And we're doing another one right now, we'll two simultaneously on questions, how to ask good data questions, and on data processing. So merging and transforming and cleaning data, all using kind of COVID-19 examples. And then eventually we're gonna do an explainer type of one on predictive analytics, because that's something that, well, OTO really cares about right now, this like ability to anticipate and predict. And that does not necessarily mean that there's a broad understanding about the complications of that. So we're trying to create these kind of, 15, 20 minutes to go through this content and hopefully give people a vocabulary.
Fantastic. Can you put the link in? Is there a link there in the Google Doc?
Yeah, I'm gonna drop it in.
Good. It is 1 minute past, so we should probably wrap. Heather, do you want to let people know about where we're going next with the consortium?
Sure. Thanks, Dirk, for hosting, and thanks everybody for joining. We've been talking a little bit about data is power, data literacy and gender, and data literacy and inclusion and diversity. So we thought that September we'd focus just on that because we've had focused topics on data protection before. We've had it on just different things, and we thought this would be the time to kind of do that. So if you want to help Caitlin and myself and Dirk shape that up, do get in touch. Otherwise, we will plan that for September after people have a holiday and also maybe a human break. Over, and Dirk.
Maybe I've gotten out. Thank you so much for that. Folks, it is 1 minute past, and we are, again, so grateful that you showed up today, that you shared all this stuff. We're going to share the notes back out to the larger list. We also will be sharing the video. Again, it'll be on YouTube, but mostly the link will go out to people on the list so that they can stay caught up with all of that. Please do use share at dataliteracy.net, the discussion list, to continue to post questions between now and our next meeting. We will let you know there when the next meeting is in September, as Heather has said. And with that, I am going to stick around for a few minutes in case anybody has any questions or anything else you want to talk through. But again, use the notes, use the list, use us, use each other. But thank you so much for this time together. We really appreciated it.
Yeah, don't hesitate to send things by the mailing list. I know we're all getting spammed, but this is one of my favorite things, is learning from you. Now that I know that Beta New York has kind of games and stuff, know that I'm looking for more of that too. So I'm excited. You never know what you'll find out here. Have fun. Have a good week-ish.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Dirk, I do have